For years I carried the house alone, believing patience was love. Then I overheard one sentence that revealed who I really was to her, and it changed everything. You never really notice the imbalance at first. That is how it gets you. It sneaks in through small promises, like the one we made sitting on our living room floor, pizza boxes spread out between us, and the new apartment still smelling like fresh paint. Back then, it felt like we were on the same page. I had just turned 31. Danielle was 28. We had only been living together a week when we made that pact, split everything 50-50. Not just rent and bills, but chores, decisions, effort. The whole deal. I remember thinking it was one of those moments that marked the beginning of real adulthood. She said, "Let's make it fair. Always." I nodded, feeling damn near proud. I believed her. Believed us. At first, it worked. We would clean together on Sundays, flipping music between her indie playlists and my old school rock. She would do the laundry. I would tackle the kitchen. Grocery runs were shared, and dinners felt like tiny victories. Her pasta, my stir-fry, our little rituals. It felt like balance. But balance is funny. You do not know how delicate it is until you realize you are the only one holding it up. It started small. A few dirty cups left on the nightstand. A load of laundry that sat unfolded for 3 days. I figured she was tired. Work had been crazy. I let it slide. That was the first mistake. Then came the dishes. She would promise to do them, even leave a sticky note with a smiley face. "I got these later, promise." But later turned into never, and the promise turned into silence. One Saturday morning, I came back from a grocery run, bags cutting into my fingers, to find her curled up on the couch, phone in hand, headphones in, while the kitchen looked like it had survived a food fight. I stood there, sweating, arms full, waiting for her to notice. She did not even look up. I told myself it was just a one-off. Maybe she had a bad night. Maybe her mind was elsewhere. Relationships are about patience, right? So I unloaded everything myself, cleaned up the mess, and pushed that little voice of resentment back down into my gut. That voice would come back louder. But at that point, I still believed in us. Still thought we were building something solid. I could not see it yet, but the weight of 2 people had already shifted, and I was the only one carrying it. I do not know the exact moment when things flipped. There was no loud fight, no door slammed off the hinges. Just a quiet, creeping shift, so slow you almost feel crazy for noticing. The promises kept coming. That was the part that messed with my head. Danielle never outright said no. She would nod, smile, say, "I'll get to it after work," or "just remind me tomorrow." Always later. That word became a ghost in our home. Always near, never seen. I would come home from work, exhausted and sticky with sweat from the warehouse floor, and find nothing touched. Trash still full. Bathroom sink cluttered with makeup. Her favorite coffee mug, now with a hard brown ring crusted around the inside, sitting in the same spot on the counter for the 4th day straight. I started doing things without asking. Not because I wanted to, but because I could not stand the smell of the garbage anymore, or the sight of crumbs stuck to the couch cushions. I swept, mopped, wiped. She would glance up from her phone, offer a half smile, and say something like, "Thanks, babe." Like I was just being sweet. Like it was optional. One Saturday, I spent the entire morning cleaning the bathroom, the tile, the mirror, even the drains. Danielle had said she would help, but when I asked if she was ready, she waved me off from the bedroom, where she was curled up under the covers, scrolling through videos. She said, "My head's killing me. I just need a few minutes." That was at 10 in the morning. She did not leave the bed until 3. I told myself it was okay. That love meant picking up the slack sometimes. But then came the day I opened the fridge and found it nearly empty. I had asked her the night before to grab a few things on her way home. Just some eggs, bread, maybe coffee. She nodded, said she was already stopping at the store. No problem. But when I asked what happened, she blinked like it had never even crossed her mind. "Oh, I forgot," she said. "You should have reminded me." That was the first time I felt something snap. Not loudly. Just a tiny, quiet crack somewhere behind my ribs. I stood there staring into the cold light of the fridge, feeling like a fool. It was not about the groceries. It was about being invisible. And I began to wonder, how many laters until never? That night, I did not say much. Just sat on the edge of the bed while she watched videos, laughing like nothing was wrong. She looked at me once, asked why I was being quiet. I said I was tired. She said, "Well, you do not have to do everything." And I almost believed her, until I walked into the kitchen the next morning and found something waiting for me that would change everything. Sunday mornings used to be my favorite. Coffee, sunlight through the blinds, some quiet before the world got noisy again. But that morning hit different. I walked into the kitchen like I always did, hoping, maybe, she had gotten up early. Maybe she had done something, anything, to show that she noticed how off things had been. But the sink was full again. Overflowing, actually. Plates stacked like a leaning tower of excuses. A fork stuck to the bottom of a bowl with dried-up sauce. A mug half filled with some cloudy liquid, probably from a smoothie she swore she would clean after breakfast. I just stood there. I counted the dishes. 14. Not mine. I had eaten out the night before. Grabbed a sandwich and a bottled drink on the way home. Threw out the wrapper, tossed the bottle in recycling. So every dish in that pile? Hers. It was not just the mess. It was what sat right next to it. A small, handwritten note. Sorry, busy week. We'll do this later. Promise. Love you. There it was again. That word. Later. That damn word had become the anthem of our home. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed, trying not to let the frustration spill over. Because here was the thing. I had believed her. I had truly believed we were partners. I had thought we were building a life. One where effort was shared, where promises were made and kept. But that morning, I saw it for what it really was. She was not forgetting. She was opting out. Again and again. I cleaned the mess. Not out of kindness. Not out of love. Out of necessity. And while scrubbing crusted cheese from a plate she had left for days, I heard her laugh in the other room. Loud and careless. She was on a video call with a friend, talking about how exhausting life had been lately. The rage bubbled up, but I swallowed it. Not because I was calm. Because something in me had started to shut off. Like a switch had been flipped. Then, while wiping down the counter, I saw her planner sitting open by the fruit bowl. She had one of those fancy leather-bound ones she used to schedule everything. Birthdays. Hair appointments. Nights out with friends. I glanced at the page. That whole past week. Full of plans. Dinner with coworkers. Pilates. Movie night. A birthday brunch. But nowhere, not once, had she written clean, help, or groceries. Not even a note about the dishes she had promised to do. That was when I realized she had not been too tired. She had just never made room for me in her plans. And as I stood there holding a damp sponge and a lump in my throat, I heard something come from the living room. Something that made my chest go ice cold. She said it without knowing I was listening. And it changed the way I saw everything. I stood just outside the kitchen, sponge still in hand, when I heard her voice from the living room. At first, I thought she was just venting, maybe telling her friend about a stressful week. But then the tone changed. It got lighter, almost amused. She was on speakerphone. I could hear her friend laughing too. The conversation drifted, casual at first. But then Danielle said something that hit like a brick to the chest. She said, "He is good at handling stuff. Honestly, I do not even worry about it anymore. He just does it." Her friend giggled and replied, "Girl, that is the dream. Get you a man who cleans without being asked." And Danielle? She laughed. Then she added, "It is not like I asked for much. I work hard. He should handle the house. I mean, come on. If I waited for him to notice the crumbs, we would be living in a trash pile." I froze. It was not the words that hurt the most. It was the tone. Dismissive. Entitled. Like my efforts were expected. Like they meant nothing. I looked down at my hands. Still damp from doing her dishes. My fingers aching from scrubbing dried sauce off a pan she had used 3 days ago. My back sore from sleeping on the couch the night before because she had needed space. And now I was just what? The help? Someone to do the grunt work so she could focus on her mental health. Someone who picked up the slack while she curated her perfectly filtered life on social media. The worst part? That little voice in my head, still trying to defend her, still whispering, maybe she didn't mean it like that. But deep down I knew. That was how she saw me. Not as a partner, not as an equal, but as a placeholder, a utility. Someone she could lean on, walk past, and take for granted. And for a moment, I almost walked out. Almost grabbed my keys, left the sponge in the sink, and slammed the door behind me. But I did not. I went back to cleaning. Silent. Mechanical. Because something in me had changed. Not just broken, shifted. I was no longer trying to fix anything. I was watching. Taking notes. preparing for the day I would no longer be the one holding everything together. And that day came sooner than I thought. Because just 48 hours later, something happened that cracked the whole thing wide open. And it had nothing to do with dishes. 2 days passed. I said nothing. I played the part. Quiet. Steady. Still doing the chores. Still showing up like clockwork. But inside, something had snapped. Not in an angry, dramatic way, but in that quiet, permanent kind of way. The kind that does not go back to normal. Tuesday night, I was looking for batteries. The TV remote was dead. Normally, I would ask her if she had seen any. But that night, I figured I would just check the junk drawer in the hallway, the one she always kept locked with a little metal clasp. I do not even know what made me try it. Curiosity, maybe. Or maybe I had reached the point where I needed to stop pretending I was not already suspicious of everything. The clasp was undone. She must have forgotten to lock it. Inside was the usual mess. Pins that did not work. Old receipts. Loose change. A roll of tape so tangled it was basically useless. But then I saw a padded envelope. Thick. Heavy. And when I opened it, everything changed. Inside were 2 credit cards. Both in her name. Nothing strange about that. Until I saw the statements. I flipped through them. Page after page of charges I had never seen. Dinners for 2 at places I had never been. Spa bookings in neighborhoods she claimed she hated. A hotel charge dated the same weekend she told me she was visiting her mom in Michigan. That cold feeling washed over me like a slow pour of ice water down my back. I went numb. It was not the spending. It was the fact that she had lied. Flat out lied. I kept reading. One line stood out. 2 tickets to a concert I had mentioned wanting to go to months ago. I remembered the day I brought it up, how she had brushed it off, said she hated crowds, said she had too much work that weekend. But now I knew the truth. She went. With someone else. I sat there on the hallway floor, the drawer still open, the paper trembling in my hands. And I realized something brutal. I had not just been cleaning up after her messes. I had been cleaning up her life. Making things comfortable so she could go out and live like she was single. Like I was just the man who kept the house warm. The betrayal did not scream. It settled in quietly. I put everything back. I closed the drawer, locked it again, and I went to bed like nothing had happened. Because I needed time. Time to plan. Time to decide. But the hardest part? The next morning, she kissed me on the cheek like always. And I let her. The next few days felt like I was walking through someone else's life. Same routine. Same house. But everything looked different now. It was like watching a movie where you already know the ending, and every smile, every casual touch, just feels fake. I could not confront her yet. Not without knowing everything. So I tested her. That Friday, I told Danielle I would be working a night shift at the warehouse. I even left the house with my work bag. Said I would be gone till after midnight. But instead of going to work, I circled back through the alley behind our building and came in through the service entrance. My buddy Darren, who worked security on the night shift, owed me a favor. I asked him to keep it quiet. No questions. I waited in the laundry room downstairs, sitting on a crate in the dark, checking my phone every few minutes. My heart was pounding in this slow, steady rhythm, like it already knew what I was going to find out. At exactly 8:27, I heard the door open upstairs. Not mine. The front door. Someone else had come in. Quiet footsteps. A low voice. Then hers. I could not hear what she said, but I heard laughter. Not the kind you share with a friend. The kind you save for someone who makes you feel seen. It lasted maybe 5 minutes. Then silence. I waited another 30. Then crept back upstairs. I pressed my ear to the door. More laughter. A thud. Something like a couch creaking under shifting weight. That was all I needed. I did not barge in. I did not take photos. I just turned and walked away, cold, steady, calm. Because now I had my answer. It was never about being too tired. It was never about being overwhelmed by work. It was about convenience. I made her life easy, comfortable, predictable, and she used that to live a second one behind my back. That night, I did not go home. I crashed at Darren's place. Told him I was dealing with some relationship stuff. He handed me a beer and let me sleep on the couch. The next morning, I turned off my phone. I needed a full day away from her voice, her texts, her fake concern. And when I turned it back on Sunday afternoon, 12 messages. All from Danielle. The first few were casual. Hope your shift went okay. Want me to order dinner? Then they got panicked. Where are you? Why are you not answering? And finally, if you are mad about something, just talk to me. But I was past talking. I was past being fooled. Because in that moment, I saw her not as my partner, but as a stranger wearing her skin. And what I did next? That was when I finally turned the mirror back on her. I went home Sunday night just before dinner. The apartment was spotless. Candles lit. Her favorite playlist humming low in the background. Danielle was sitting on the couch in one of those oversized sweaters she always wore when she wanted to look cozy and innocent. She smiled when she saw me. That same sweet, disarming smile I used to fall for. She asked if everything was okay. Said I looked tired. Told me she made pasta, my favorite. I nodded. Sat down. Ate in silence. She talked like nothing had happened. About her week, her friend's engagement, some TV show she wanted us to binge. I just listened, eyes blank, heart cold. Because I knew I was watching someone perform. And I had already written the ending. The next day, I went to work like normal. But on my lunch break, I made a stop at a lawyer's office. Just a consultation. No commitments. Then I made another stop. Storage unit. 1 month, paid in cash. Small, quiet place on the edge of town. I went back home that night and started slowly packing the things that mattered. Documents. Tools. My grandfather's watch. The old baseball glove I had kept since I was a kid. Anything I would not want to lose when I walked away. I took them to the unit in shifts. Each time she was out for yoga or coffee with Emily. She never noticed. Because she never really looked. The plan was simple. Let her believe everything was fine. Let her keep playing the role until I pulled the curtain down. And the opportunity came faster than I expected. That Thursday, Danielle texted me saying she was heading out to meet a friend for dinner. Her phone location, yes, I had started tracking it after the hotel receipt, pinged near the same upscale restaurant I had seen on her credit card statement. So I waited 20 minutes. Then I went home, straight to her laptop. She never logged out of anything. And what I found confirmed everything. Photos, messages, even a saved folder labeled Work Notes that was full of calendar reminders, each one matching the exact dates of her mental health weekends. She was not meeting friends. She was not working late. She had been seeing someone else. For months. And not just anyone. Someone we both knew. I stared at the screen, the words blurring in front of me. And I knew it was time. That night, I packed the last of my things and dropped off my key at the front desk of her gym, where I knew she would find it. I left one note behind. Not angry. Not emotional. Just 6 words, written in the planner she always kept next to the fruit bowl. You never lifted a finger back. And then I walked out for good. Or at least, I thought I did. Until the knock came. I was halfway through organizing my new place. Just a modest 1-bedroom with scuffed floors and cabinets that squeaked when someone knocked. It was late. Almost 10. I stood frozen for a second, unsure whether to answer. Then came the second knock. Faster. Sharper. I opened the door, and there she was. Danielle. Eyes puffy. Jacket half-zipped. Hair pulled back in that messy way she did when she was falling apart, but still wanted to look composed. She did not say anything right away. Just stared at me like she had never really seen me before. Then the questions came. Why did I leave? Why the silence? What had she done that was so unforgivable? I told her to cut the act. She blinked. Said she had no idea what I was talking about. So I asked her about the restaurant charges. The hotel. The lies. The other guy. She swore it was nothing. Said I was being paranoid. That it was not what it looked like. That line right there. That was her mistake. Because I had proof. I pulled up the photos, the messages, the reservations. I read her words back to her, line by line. She went pale. Then angry. She accused me of spying. Of invading her privacy. Of being controlling. But I did not budge. Because for the first time in a long time, I saw things clearly. This was not about one mistake. This was about months of pretending. Years of imbalance. I told her the truth. That I had loved her. That I had fought for us. That I gave her every chance to show up. Really show up. And every time, she chose herself. And now she was here, not because she missed me, but because the lie had collapsed. She sat down on the floor. Right there, in the hallway. Back against the wall, tears streaking her makeup. She said she never thought I would actually leave. Said she figured I would just keep holding on. That was when it hit me, the final confirmation. She had never taken me seriously. Never respected the weight I carried, or the silence I swallowed. To her, I was dependable, predictable, permanent. But people are not permanent when you treat them like furniture. I did not yell. I did not beg. I just told her the one thing I had been holding in for too long. that I was done being the only adult in the relationship. And then, as she started to cry harder, she said something that stopped me cold, something I had never expected. Still sitting on the floor, Danielle looked up at me, face flushed and streaked with tears. Her voice dropped, barely above a whisper. She said, "I did not cheat for love. I did not say anything. Just let her keep going." She said it started when she got promoted at work. Said suddenly everyone expected more from her, and she felt like she was falling behind. That her boss made her feel stupid. That her friends were all leveling up while she still felt stuck. And then one night, she stayed late at the office. That was when she met him, someone in upper management. Someone who saw her not as scattered or behind, but polished, put together. Someone who told her she deserved more, that she was too good for the life she had at home. She said she did not mean for it to happen, but she let it happen, because hearing that from someone, after feeling invisible for so long, felt good. Too good. I let her talk. I listened to every word, not because I wanted to understand, but because I needed to hear it. The whole thing. No more pretending. She said she thought I would always be there, that I was safe, that I was the calm center she could always return to when the storm passed. That hit me harder than any lie she had told, because it was true. I had made myself small so she could feel big. I had held it all together, thinking I was being strong, but all I had done was make it easier for her to leave without consequences. I looked her in the eyes, and for the first time, I felt absolutely nothing. Not anger, not heartbreak, just clarity. I told her she had finally given me a gift. Not the truth, not the apology, but the realization that I had spent years building a life with someone who never planned to carry half the weight. She asked if there was a chance, if we could fix it. She said, "I can change." I believed her, but I also knew this. Words without action are just noise. And she had made enough noise for a lifetime. I stood up, walked to the door, and opened it. I said, "You do not need to leave. You already left a long time ago." And then I walked back inside, leaving her there, still sitting on the floor, still pretending to be the person she never was. It has been 3 months since that night. No dramatic goodbye, no last kiss, no final text full of empty promises. Just silence. She moved out, took her clothes, her plants, her notebooks full of to-do lists she never followed. Left behind a chipped coffee mug, a broken phone charger, and one sock stuck behind the dresser. Sometimes I find pieces of her still tucked into the corners. A bobby pin on the bathroom floor. A playlist she made that still auto-loads on my Bluetooth speaker. Ghosts that show up when I least expect them. But they do not haunt me. They remind me of everything I used to carry alone. I still do the dishes. I still clean the bathroom every Sunday. I still cook for one. But now, every time I wipe a counter or fold a towel, I know I am not doing it to make someone else comfortable. I am doing it for me. Because shared responsibility is not just some cute agreement you make over takeout and cheap wine. It is the foundation. The unspoken contract that says, if I show up, you show up too. Not sometimes. Not just when it is easy. Always. Looking back, I see it clearly now. She did not want a partner. She wanted comfort. She wanted the perks of love without the work. And when things got real, when life got messy, she disappeared into distraction, excuses, and other people's arms. It took me too long to admit it. But one-sided effort does not build a life. It builds resentment. And that resentment? It starts small. A dirty plate. A missed errand. A promise pushed to next week. But over time, it hardens. Grows teeth. Turns into silence. Distance. Doubt. Until one day, you realize the only person showing up is you. And that is not love. That is survival. So here's what I know now. If someone says they will share the weight, watch what they do when it gets heavy. If they disappear, if they forget, if they call your effort just what you do, they are not in it with you. They are using you. Love does not live in what people say. It lives in what they do. And if it is always you doing the work, pack your things, wash the last dish, and walk away clean.